In this video, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into my public speaking career, how I started, and a few lessons learned. Hey everybody, Katie Lance here, founder and CEO of Katie Lance Consulting, the Get Social Smart Academy, and author of the book, Get Social Smart. It's episode 296 of the Get Social Smart show, and this month we are doing some story times. We are taking you behind the scenes because this month we are celebrating our 10th anniversary year in business. I can't believe it, it's been 10 years. And so this month we are sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes of our business. We talked about the growth of our business, how we got started. If you've been curious about that fun story, we will link that below. In my last video, we talked about the Academy and how the Get Social Smart Academy has grown, where that came from, what that's all about, so we'll link that below. But I thought it would be really fun for this video to talk a little bit about speaking. This is one of the things I feel like I don't talk a whole lot about, but people all the time ask me how did you get started in speaking? Or I often have people who will come up to me and say, I want to become a speaker, or they're already doing some speaking. And all the time people will ask me for tips, and they'll ask questions like, what should I charge? Or, just all different types of questions. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to do a video. I'm going to share my backstory a little bit. And then at the end, I'm going to share a few lessons learned. So if you are an aspiring speaker or you're already someone who's doing some speaking, I am not a professional coach in the speaking world. There are some other great folks, but I'm just going to share with you lessons that I've learned, and hopefully that'll help you along the way. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so the backstory with speaking. I have to say, I'm kind of one of those kids who I feel like, especially early on, realized that, hey, I think I'm good at this, which is a little weird to admit. So I do remember when I was little being nervous, as we all are, right? You remember elementary school, you had to get to the front of the room and you had your 3x5 cards and you had to do a book report, and it's nerve-wracking, right? All your classmates are staring at you. But I specifically remember a moment in high school. I think I was probably in 9th or 10th grade, and we had to do sort of a debate style presentation. And I remember working really hard on it, really getting prepared, and then, not to toot my own horn, but kind of knocking it out of the park. And I had this feeling of wow, I'm really good at this. And as a kid, when you have that feeling, it's a pretty awesome feeling. I know some of you have experienced this maybe in sports, or you've experienced this professionally, or you've experienced this in other areas of your life. And so that little moment always sticks with me because I remember thinking, I'm pretty good at this, right? And I also noticed that how nervous other people were, and I'm like, wow, maybe this is something, right? So fast forward through college, and in my college years, I got a job working for Vector Marketing, selling Cutco knives. If you have missed that whole story, I did a podcast about that probably about a year or two ago. We'll link to that podcast episode below. So if you're wondering my knife journey, you can check that out. But I mentioned that because when I worked at Vector, I was doing a ton of public speaking. I was doing recruiting and sales meetings, and it was in front of a ton of people, and they absolutely loved it. I worked with thousands of people all across the world. I was doing a ton of speaking one-to-one when I was doing demos. And I learned so much about myself and so much about communication during that time. Fast forward to my career right before where I am now. As I shared in one of my earlier videos, I started working for a local real estate company. I was doing marketing. I was doing a lot of the behind the scenes with marketing and branding. This was kind of 2007, 2008, 2009. I was the one who was helping agents and brokers, lay out their newspaper ads and magazine ads. And so really was able to work really closely with a lot of agents and brokers, and started speaking in front of sales meetings and started speaking in front of realtors. From there, went on to work for Inman News. As a lot of you know, I met so many of you during my time at Inman, and at Inman I was behind the scenes a lot. But I'll never forget one of the events. We were doing events called Agent Reboot at the time, and one of our speakers was sick or was unable to go on stage. And I remember Brad Inman saying, hey, can you cover so-and-so? Can you go on stage for them? And I had a little bit of notice, so I was able to prepare. And I'm like, sure, okay. So, gathered my thoughts, gathered my notes, went out there. It was awesome. I actually think it was in Vancouver, if I remember correctly. And, from there, that kind of sparked my speaking career with Inman. And pretty soon I was speaking on stage at Inman. I was helping host Inman Connect along with my dear friend, Chris Smith. We went on the road. We were doing a ton of events with Agent Reboot, which really helped to hone and build my speaking. And I'm very, very grateful for that time. It also allowed me to meet so many amazing individuals from all over. And when I think about that time is I think about, when it comes to speaking professionally, the best way I think to get better at speaking is to speak, right? To get in front of audiences. And, I can just look back to so many different areas in my life where I did a ton of kind of free speaking, whether it was in front of Rotary clubs or other organizations where there was no paying me. I might have gotten paid in maybe a pen or, a little high five or a little tchotchke. But there's a lot of value in that experience. It's the same thing, if you've been following me for any period of time, I feel the same way when it comes to getting on video. Getting better at getting on video takes time. And the only way you kind of do it is by doing it, by doing the work. So I think about all my experience just in front of different stages, large and small, from huge auditoriums at Inman Connect with thousands of people to, small conference rooms with 5 or 10 people. I've spoken just about anywhere and everywhere and have all kinds of fun stories about that. So again, taking that time, I think it's made a huge difference. So flash forward, after my time with Inman, I shared a couple videos back about how I went out on my own in 2012, and I was hoping that speaking would still be a part of that. And so I know for myself it was really important to continue to show value, put out some valuable content, make those connections, and really be proactive. I remember doing a lot of Googling, a lot of researching, a lot of looking at my own network and seeing who's connected to who, not being afraid to reach out to event directors, people who didn't know me, different organizations, to say, hey, are you looking for a speaker? And I think that's a big part of speaking in general, is really, leaning in and saying, hey, do you need a speaker? Asking for the order, asking for that appointment. You may get a lot of no's, but that's okay. So my speaking since the very beginning has certainly evolved. With COVID, obviously speaking in person came to a total standstill, and I started doing a ton of virtual events through Zoom. And honestly, to this day in 2022, I still do a ton of virtual training through Zoom. And so now what my speaking looks like is a little bit in person, a little bit virtually. And at one point, I was traveling a ton. I think one of the things that came out of COVID for me and our family is, I still want to travel, I still want to do speaking, but I'm really blessed to be at really kind of a point in my career where we can really pick and choose the events and the organizations that, work best for our business and our family and where we're at, which is a huge, huge blessing. I think another thing I wanted to share before I get into lessons learned is one of the reasons why I love it. It's not about being on stage. I think for some people, they love the fame, right? Like, oh, you're a speaker, right? Look at you. Like, it's never been that for me. What is the most satisfying is getting off stage, and it's those moments that happen afterwards. When I'm running to the restroom, or I'm in the hallway, or I'm in the lobby, and someone comes up to me and goes, oh my gosh, you said this, you said X, Y, and Z, and I never thought about it that way. Or they say something like, I was always really intimidated by Facebook or Instagram or social media, but after listening to you, I think I can do it. I'm gonna be brave and do it. And so hearing things like that and then seeing what happens afterwards, having people reach out to me and say, I saw you a year ago. I saw you 3 years ago. I have some people who say, hey, I saw you 10 years ago. And it's really incredible the connections that happen. You get on stage, you share a message to 5 people or 5,000 people, and you hope that somebody somewhere in the audience takes away those nuggets. And so when you get that feedback back, it's awesome, and there's nothing like it. Okay, let's get into some lessons learned. So this is great for those of you who are thinking about getting into speaking, or maybe you're already a speaker and you're thinking about, kind of taking things to the next level. Let's dive in. Okay, 5 things. Number 1, don't try to be anybody but yourself. Don't try to be anybody but yourself. When you first start, it's really easy to look at all the people you admire in the speaking world and think, I want to be like them. I like what she has to say. I like their vibe. And I think that's part of the process, is we try to emulate people and we try to emulate their words. But the more you get out there, the more you speak, the more you get on camera, by the way, like this, the more you will find your own words. You'll find your own voice. You'll find your own personality, right? So don't try to be like anybody else. Be your authentic self. One of the things I said in our last video was, really think about your niche. It's okay to have a niche. It's okay to lean into that. You don't have to be all things to all people. And here's the reality. Some people may not like your vibe. They may not like, your stage presence or whatever, and that's okay. They're not your people, right? Because on the flip side, you're gonna have people who are like, oh my gosh, we gotta hire so-and-so. We gotta hire her. We gotta hire him and bring them to our next event, right? So that's really important. Lesson number 2, be prepared. Oh, you guys, this is a huge one. Be prepared. And there's so many things I could talk about when it comes to being prepared. I have been speaking for years, but guess what? I still rehearsed, I still practice, I still prepare my PowerPoint way in advance. You know, I used to be that one who was like scrambling on an airplane. No. That, in my opinion, isn't showing respect to your audience or the event coordinators who are paying to bring you out. So be prepared. Think ahead of time about what you want to talk about. And over the course of time, one of the things that I've developed, and I know a lot of speakers have, is you develop presentations that you've given over and over again. What I always like to do, though, is make sure I talk to event coordinators ahead of time and figure out who's in the audience, how can I best serve them with whatever talk they have chosen. I have a list of topics that I specialize in. So they may have picked a specific topic, but I always think, how can I just tweak it a little bit? How can I customize this a little bit? How can I make this the best experience for the people who are in that room? I think it's also important to be prepared to show up early. You know, if I have an 8 a.m. Time that I'm supposed to show up on stage, I'm not rolling in like 15 minutes before, right? So I've learned this over the course of time. You got to plan your travel accordingly. So coming in the night before, speaking to organizers ahead of time and saying, hey, do you mind, can I have access to the room? I'd love to see the setup. I'd love to run my slides. Always test your slides. This is a huge thing. Test your slides, test your video, make sure your audio visual works, because things happen, right? And sometimes you can't always control when things happen, but be prepared. I can tell you that the more prepared you are, the easier of a job you can make it for an event coordinator, an event organizer. They're gonna remember that and they're gonna wanna work with you again, right? So be prepared, that's huge. Lesson number 3, know your worth. Know your worth. So this is kind of along the lines of like what to charge, should you charge? And there's so many different schools of thought. I really do think when you're first starting out, like getting that experience where you aren't charging, that's probably where a lot of folks start out, right? Obviously my story is a little bit different, and everyone's story is a little bit different. But at some point after you have, gotten a few speaking events under your belt, there's nothing wrong with charging. I think there's this philosophy out there, some event coordinators might come to you and say, well, gosh, can you come speak for us? It'll be great exposure, which a lot of speakers, if you're listening to this, you probably will smile too. In theory, it sounds great, right? I had a good friend of mine who said exposure. People have died of exposure, right? So as much as that sounds great, and it is great if you are new and just getting your feet wet, if you are a professional speaker and that's part of your revenue, you have to know your worth. So your fees will change over the course of time. I remember when I first started out, it was like, charging a very minimal of $500 or $1,000, and then we raised it to $1,500 and $2,500 and $5,000 and $10,000, right? You increase it in steps, and you increase it based on your expertise. The more you speak, the better you get. As I wrote a book, that helped to increase the fees I was able to charge. As I got more clout, in the industry, and our business grew. So there's a lot of factors in that. But know your worth and don't be scared to quote a price. I know it's really tempting to say like, oh, well, what's your budget? Or, to kind of like hide behind a price. I remember so many times I'd say, well, like, let's just hop on the phone and talk about it. I personally just like to get the price thing right out of the way, right? I don't want to waste anyone's time. So of course, there's always opportunity to negotiate, just like anything in business. And we're happy to do that, especially, of course, based on who we're working with. As I said earlier, we feel very blessed to be able to say yes to who we want to work with in terms of organizations, but know your worth, right? And for some people, maybe you're going to be out of the budget, and that's okay, right? That's where I think it's really great to have a great network of other speakers. I think one of the best things you can do is to be a great friend to other speakers. When you see other speakers on stage, don't be the one who is, totally ignoring them. Be the one who's going to raise them up. Take a picture of them, tag them on social media, refer them to other event coordinators. And I think that network is so important, and knowing your worth. Okay, lesson number 4, stay humble. I think this is really important. If you get more successful as a speaker, it can easily go to your head, right? So stay humble. I think this is so important. Again, it's not about, look at me, I'm on stage, but thinking about, if you can think about your audience first, you're going to be so much farther ahead than so many others. So stay humble. I think that's really important. Be grateful. I have it built into my systems. When I get home from an event, I have a note to remind myself to send thank you notes, and an email, a written note. If you're going to send a gift, whatever your follow-up is, but have that baked into your system. Stay humble in terms of how you interact on stage. A lot of times I see speakers who are great at a subject. They're so good at a subject, but what ends up happening is then they're kind of talking down to people, and so then the people in the audience feel like, oh my gosh, I can never do what he's doing. I can never do what she's doing. So, kind of taking a piece of that humble pie a little bit, and especially if you're teaching something, I think it's important to be humble. That's huge. Okay, lesson number 5. Building a speaking career, I really think, starts with video. If you are at a place where you're like, I would love to start speaking, but how do I get people to hire me? It's not just about reaching out to event coordinators and preparing a speech and thinking about that. That's obviously important. But you also really want to get on camera. One of the best things that we did was really start to get consistent with our video content. It was about 6 or 7 years ago that we started the Get Social Smart show that you're watching right now. We have a new video that comes out each and every week. And so what happens is when you put yourself out there on video, when you can start to put out video content that's in your niche, that's helpful, you're not just selling yourself, but you're talking about, your expertise, over the course of time, people are going to find you. It's a great way to showcase your expertise compared to other speakers that they might be looking for. Video content, of course, is great on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok these days, Facebook. You can put it in multiple places, but I would highly encourage you, if you're thinking about getting into speaking, you don't have to create videos about speaking, but create educational videos, right? Videos about your niche. At some point, you can create a speaker reel, right, as you start to get some clips of yourself on stage. But again, you have to walk before you can run. Get yourself on video. Okay, I would love to hear from you. Are you a speaker? Are you an aspiring speaker? Have you thought about speaking, or does speaking absolutely terrify you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm just curious. This has been fun to kind of, like I said, do a little bit of a story time, take you behind the scenes. I will say, if you are listening to this and you're looking for a speaker, shameless plug, I would absolutely love to chat with you. You can go to katielance.com and click on the little button that says speaking, or work with me and find out more information about how we can work together virtually or in person. All right, lastly, if you're watching this over on YouTube, we would love for you to hit that subscribe button and the bell button, as we have new videos that come out each and every week. All right, my friends, I will see you soon. Oh, by the way, if you and I have met because of me speaking at your event, maybe we met because of I was on stage somewhere, let me know in the comments below. I absolutely love when you guys reach out and say, I met you at that event, or I met you at that event. So let me know in the comments below. All right, my friends, until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye for now.